My mother Thetis tells me that there are two ways in which I may meet my end. If I stay here and fight, I shall not return alive, but my name will live forever. Whereas if I go home, my name will die, but it will be long ere death shall take me.
These legendary words were spoken by Achilles in Book 9 of Homer's Iliad, as recorded in the classic translation by Samuel Butler. In today's video, we are travelling back to the Bronze Age to kick off our character series with the most famous figure in Greek epic poetry, Achilles. Homer is the author of the two greatest epics in human history, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Over the years, Hollywood has often brought these tales to the big screen. Yet, for the sake of visual spectacle, the depth of these characters is often watered down. In this series, we are aiming for accuracy, presenting these figures as they were truly meant to be, relying on the most reputable primary sources. Achilles was born from the marriage of a mortal man, Peleus, and the divine sea nymph, Thetis, one of the 50 Nereids and a goddess of water. Though Peleus was mortal, his lineage was steeped in divinity. His father was Aeacus, a son of Zeus. His grandmother was the nymph Aegina, after whom the island of Aegina was named. According to the ancient poet Hesiod, Zeus himself once desired to marry Thetis. However, Thetis avoided the king of the gods to please Hera. In the Catalogue of Women, specifically Fragment 57 of the Hugh G Evelyn-White edition, Hesiod tells us, "But Zeus was angry and swore that she should mate with a mortal." That mortal was Peleus. He was a hero of great renown who had recently sacked the city of Iolcus. Upon his return to his homeland of Phthia, he was envied by all, not just for his military success, but because the gods themselves had arranged his marriage to a goddess. As Evelyn-White translates in Fragment 58 of Hesiod's work, "And in these halls you go up to the holy bed of a daughter of Nereus. Truly the father, the son of Kronos, made you very preeminent among heroes and honoured above other men." Nereus, who is mentioned here, happens to be the ancient sea god, son of Pontus, the sea, and Gaia, the earth. Peleus was no ordinary man, but even for a king with his lineage, a marriage to a Nereid was a divine distinction. It was from this union, arranged by the will of Zeus, that Achilles was born. From the extraordinary marriage that gave birth to him, it was clear that this child was destined for much more than an ordinary life, for better or for worse. Here we start seeing different stories of exactly why Zeus arranged a marriage for Peleus, and how Achilles became an almost invulnerable, immortal figure. In our initial storyline, Zeus condemned Thetis to marry a mortal because she avoided marrying him to please Hera, but later, the epic poem Argonautica by Apollonius of Rhodes, as translated by R.C. Seaton, gives us a different motive. Hera tells to Thetis,
"But thee indeed from thy infancy did I tend with my own hands, and love beyond all others that dwell in the salt sea, because thou didst refuse to share the couch of Zeus for all his desire. For to him such deeds are ever dear, to embrace either goddesses or mortal women. But in reverence for me, and with fear in thy heart, thou didst shrink from his love. And he then swore a mighty oath that thou shouldst never be called the bride of an immortal god. Yet he ceased not from spying thee against thy will, until Reverend Themis declared to him the whole truth, how that it was thy fate to bear a son mightier than his sire. Wherefore he gave thee up for all his desire, fearing lest another should be his match and rule the immortals, and in order that he might ever hold his own dominion."
At first, we saw that Zeus acted out of anger over her refusal, but now, in the Argonautica, we see that Zeus did not want any possible competition for his throne. According to Themis, the goddess of justice, the son of Thetis, was destined to be greater than his father. So if a god, or Zeus himself, sired a son with Thetis, this son might be powerful enough to dethrone the king of Olympus. In the library of Pseudo-Apollodorus, Book 3, translated by J.G. Frazer, we encounter the following passage on Peleus's marriage to Thetis. Afterwards he married Thetis, daughter of Nereus, for whose hand Zeus and Poseidon had been rivals. But when Themis prophesied that the son born of Thetis would be mightier than his father, they withdrew. But some say that when Zeus was bent on gratifying his passion for her, Prometheus declared that the son born to him by her would be Lord of Heaven. And others affirm that Thetis would not consort with Zeus because she had been brought up by Hera, and that Zeus, in anger, would marry her to a mortal. This passage is in perfect alignment with the Argonautica. It also gives us vital additional information summarizing the different motives behind Thetis's refusal of Zeus's advances, and Zeus's ultimate reaction. This is where our story gets interesting. It is here that we start seeing the stark differences between actual ancient Greek sources, later Latin sources, and Hollywood. When it comes to the legendary invulnerability of Achilles, there are two commonly known storylines. The first is the famous tale where his mother dips him into the river Styx while holding him by his ankle or heel. Because of the mother's grip, the magical water does not touch that part of his body, leaving him vulnerable. While this is the most famous version, it is the later Latin, Romanized version of the story, notably recorded by the Roman poet Statius and translated into English by J.H. Mozley. However, ancient Greek sources tell a different tale. Once again, the Argonautica, translated by R.C. Seaton, tells us, "For she ever encompassed the child's mortal flesh in the night with the flame of fire, and day by day she anointed with ambrosia his tender frame, so that he might become immortal, and that she might keep off from his body loathsome old age. But Peleus leapt up from his bed and saw his dear son gasping in the flame, and at the sight he uttered a terrible cry, fool that he was. And she heard it, and catching up the child, threw him screaming to the ground, and herself like a breath of wind passed swiftly from the hall as a dream, and leapt into the sea, exceeding wroth, and thereafter returned not again." This exact same story can be found in the library of Pseudo-Apollodorus, Book 3. Following the abrupt departure of Thetis, Frazer's translation provides us with an interesting passage that is unknown to many. When Thetis had got a babe by Peleus, she wished to make it immortal, and unknown to Peleus, she used to hide it in the fire by night in order to destroy the mortal element which the child inherited from its father. But by day she anointed him with ambrosia. But Peleus watched her, and seeing the child writhing on the fire, he cried out. And Thetis, thus prevented from accomplishing her purpose, forsook her infant son and departed to the Nereids. Peleus brought the child to Chiron, who received him and fed him on the inwards of lions and wild swine and the marrows of bears, and named him Achilles, because he had not put his lips to the breast, but before that time his name was Ligeiron. This passage gives us three different pieces of fascinating information. First, the real birth name of Achilles was actually Ligeiron. Second, he was raised by a centaur named Chiron. And third, it reveals the literal meaning of the name Achilles, which translates roughly to "he who has not put his lips to the breast." Today, we journeyed into the dawn of Greece's greatest mortal champion. We traced the divine and tumultuous origins of Achilles, born of the sea nymph Thetis and King Peleus, and explored the cosmic prophecies that made his very existence a threat to the gods themselves. We witnessed a mother's desperate quest to shield her son from mortality through the dark waters of the Styx and the searing heat of sacred flames, and we watched him grow in the wild under the tutelage of the wise centaur Chiron, trading innocence for the rugged life of a warrior. But the threads of fate are spinning faster, and a grand conflict is brewing on the horizon. In our next episode, the saga continues as we follow Achilles' historic return to Phthia. There, a bond will be forged that echoes through eternity. Enter Patroclus. As the drums of war begin to beat across the Mediterranean, a mother's desperation will lead to extreme measures. forcing a legendary warrior into an unthinkable disguise to hide from his destiny. But how long can a lion truly be caged? Join us next time as we unravel the shadow games of the Greek camps, the hidden secrets of an island kingdom, and the brilliant, cunning trick of Odysseus. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a single chapter of this epic story. Let us know in the comments below what surprised you most about Achilles' upbringing. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next episode.